Thank you very much for coming. I'm Bruce, as you have now figured out. I'm your host for the day, and I work here at the Great Squared Up, which is the office we're in. I'm going to take you through a few bits and pieces, such as logistics, like fire exits. So the fire exits are through the main doors and down the stairs. Very easy, which is good. Only one way in and out of the building. Which is good. A few other things to take you through. We are Squared Up. We do dashboarding, which is what this is. This is an example of the sort of thing you can see. Our next event is on the 15th of December. We're running a community event with all the other UK chapters. It's going to be online, and we've got some great speakers from the head of data center through to developers for Forge. It's going to be a good event, and it's all online. There's no face-to-face component. The other thing I wanted to quickly say is that we're giving away a gift card today for $25. Let me just flick through my slides. All you need to do is give us a review on social media and mention us. The idea is we're trying to build the community here, essentially. Maidenhead is not London, so it's not quite so easy to get people here. So we're looking to get as many people that you know locally here. And what better way than obviously word of mouth, but also online referrals. So yeah, if you refer us on social media and at us, essentially, we have a page and a group, then I will immediately send you a link for a £25 gift card. That's all it takes. Easy. If you work for Atlassian, I'm sure you'll be excluded, I'm afraid to say. I'm not entirely sure. So all that's left to do is to introduce you to our speaker for this evening, who you've all met. Ravi, welcome to the stage. We're going to be talking us through Jira Automation Demystified, which is a big topic. There's lots to cover as far as Jira Automation is concerned. So without further ado, I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Okay, perfect. So let us start. And today we are, of course, going to talk about automation options in Jira and what all we can do, wonderful things we can do with Jira when it comes to automation. But I'm going to spend maybe 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes talking about me. In case you don't know me, I'm Ravi Sagar. I'm a consultant, and I also run a company called Sparksys Solutions. So we basically provide Atlassian consultation to various other companies. And I have been using Jira for quite a while now. It has been, I think, 15-ish years. I first started using Jira in 2007. I mean, I didn't really want to, but I was asked to use Jira. And ever since, I am doing a lot of wonderful things with Jira. I have written a few books as well, because when I was doing Jira consultation, I ended up making a lot of my notes and a lot of my training outline, which I ended up publishing. So I do have a few books if you want to, check those books online. They're all on Amazon. And I'm also one of the community leader. So just like Bruce, I also, spend time on the community where I try to help other people who are trying to get some information about Jira. For example, if you need some help with Jira, you can always go to the community. So Atlassian community is a nice place where not only you can seek information, but you can also help others. For example, if you're using Jira, maybe you know something about it. And if you see those questions, I think I encourage you to do some participation, try to help others. I think it's a good way to not only help others, but you'll also learn a lot about what wonderful things you can do or what people are doing with Jira. And I also learn a lot. So every day I spend like 15 minutes on the community. This is something I do for sure. 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the evening, I go to the community. I try to answer. And the company that I run is called Sparksys. We are not really a partner, Atlassian partner, but we are doing this Jira consultation, Atlassian consultation for a while now. I first started this company in 2010 back in India. Now we also are here in the UK. So I started this company in the UK last year. And we do, of course, a lot of things, but our focus is more on the automation side. So, of course, if you need any help with, let us say, not just Jira or any other tool, but if you need any help with, let us say, Tempo, or you need some help with EasyBI, we can help you. But we do have some focus, and our focus is on script runner. So I used to work with Adaptivist, the company behind Scriptrunner. And although I have been working, I worked with Adaptivist for a while, like for a couple of 3 years, I guess. But I first started using Scriptrunner when it was open source. So in case you don't know, Scriptrunner, which is of course one of the most popular app for doing automations in Jira. It used to be a free app. It was not really called as an app. Back then, it was called as a plugin. So when Jira came out, I think they introduced this concept of I think it was like 2007 or 8, I guess, if I remember correctly, when they let people write their own plugins. And Scriptrunner was one such app where you can write scripts. So today I will not only talk about Scriptrunner, I will talk about all the options, all the automation options that you have when it comes to using Jira, when it comes to automating things in Jira. Now, if we talk about automation, so you must be wondering what exactly is an automation. So automation in general is nothing but to minimize human intervention. For example, you may be using a tool which is great, but you are spending a lot of time doing the same thing over and over again. So Jira is of course a tool. Jira is nothing but it is essentially an issue tracker where you store your issues, your epics, your stories, your features, your initiatives. And people use Jira for, of course, project management. But there are a lot of areas where you may want tool to do things for you. And of course, you can do automation in the tool, and that is always a possibility. And today I want to talk about those options, what all options you have. Now, before I talk about what all options you have, there are definitely some benefits when it comes to doing these automations. The main obvious benefit is, of course, you will save time and money. For example, because I've seen this, because I'm a consultant, I spend a lot of time with my clients, and I see them doing the same manual work over and over again. For example, I know someone who has to spend 1 hour every day, 1 hour as part of their job to send an email and update someone. And that email has nothing but what happened today, how many critical bugs were resolved, how much time we spent doing these things. So that is their job, and they do it using Outlook. So basically, they open their Outlook and they write this email, and it's 1 hour every day. It's annoying, and they will probably, I know it is frustrating. So not only you will save time, not only you will save money, but it is also going to make your team a bit more happy, and they will enjoy their life. Apart from that, of course, you can integrate Jira with other tools. That is also something that we want to do. I was working for a gaming company last year, and they use ServiceNow heavily, but they are also using Jira. And for some of their service requests, they wanted to use Jira. So they were manually creating tickets in Jira Service Management, which is, of course, not ideal, because you will do it manually. And when you're doing something manually, there is a scope for doing some mistakes. So we can automate it. And that is what I did. So you can always integrate Jira with other tools. And today, of course, I will talk about some of the options and the possibilities. Using automations, you can also extend the features, or not the features, but yeah, the features or the capabilities of Jira. So Jira as a tool, it has some features, right? So when you set up Jira, it could be on cloud, it could be on-prem, you get some features. But people want to do more. One good example is, and today I will cover some use cases, but these are some examples. I was working for a client where they were happy with Jira Service Management, but they wanted to show some additional information on the portal for the customer. So if I'm a customer, if I, let us say, raised a ticket, a service request that I need something, now your agent will start working on it, right? Now, usually, your agents would probably create a ticket for the dev team. And the dev team will do something, and they will let the agent know that, okay, I'm working on it. I've done some work. Now the agent would then communicate back to the customer if they feel like doing it. But what we can do, we can display a panel on the portal, and we can pick up some things, like maybe we can display subtasks, or maybe we can display linked issues on the customer portal. So we can actually enhance the experience for your customers. Also, talking about consistency. So when we use Jira, of course, we can create projects. And when we create projects in Jira, we can always mess up, because whenever you create a project in Jira, it's a bit annoying. People start using templates, and whenever you use a template, you are actually in a way creating a project with its own set of schemes or configurations, which is not ideal, because you're letting everyone work in their own way. They will have their own workflow, they will have their own permission schemes, they will have their own notification schemes. What we can do, we can automate this. Imagine that you have a portal where you can raise a request for a new project. And the moment you click the button, the moment you submit the request for a new project, you can also ask your customer or your end users to select what template they want, or what standard template that you may have within your company, that if you're doing software development, use this template number 1 or 2. And they will select the template, or maybe they will select something else. And based on those fields that you capture from the customer, you can create the project automatically with a shared configuration. So this can be done. It's like provisioning your projects in Jira. Also, I will, of course, talk about a lot of things today, but you can be a bit more efficient. For example, people use GitHub, and within GitHub, you have the option to create releases, right? Your releases in GitHub, and those releases are usually, or they should be, aligned with your Jira projects, but they're not, because it's manual. But we can automate it. So let us say you have a release in GitHub, because that is where your developers are doing their work, right? And let us say you release version 1.1. And if you have a same release in Jira, we can also align, like automatically release it in Jira as well. I mean, of course, it is something that can be done, and it works really nice, because you can talk to Jira from outside. You can use webhooks, you can use automation rules. Yeah, this can be done using automation rules, by the way. And automation rules, although it won't really cover each and everything, but there is an option to release something in Jira using automation. So these are some of the benefits. And of course, I tried to give some examples, but I do have some use cases for you as well. All right, so these are the options. And of course, when we talk about automation, we have to figure out, first of all, are we doing it on cloud, or we are doing it on prem? If you're on cloud, I'll start with the first one, and I'll get into the details of each and every option. If you are thinking of using Jira REST API, because that is great, Jira has REST API. You can do a lot of things, like you can talk to Jira, you can push things in Jira, you can change things in Jira, you can also pull things from Jira, and this works both on cloud and data center. So maybe you want to build your own interface, maybe you want to sync Jira with ServiceNow, or maybe you want to notify something in Slack or Teams. You can always use Jira REST API. The other option is, and by the way, these options are based on my experience. There might be more, but these are, I think, these are the only options. Of course, I'm going to talk about Script Runner, because Script Runner is one app which will let you do a lot of things, but there are other apps where you can, you can always install an app that can do something, like something very specific. Like you install the app and it will do one thing. Like for syncing, there is an app called Accelerate. For reporting, there are a lot of apps, but I'm going to focus on options where you can build something, where you can have your own logic with Jira, and you can do that with Script Runner, and that is why it is a separate item in the list. The second option that I want to talk about is, of course, you can always build your own app on server, on data center, and Atlassian has this SDK, which is nice. And if you're doing something on data center, you have to basically rely on Java APIs, Jira Java APIs. But if you're on cloud, you have to use Connect, which is again a platform which you can use. Atlassian is saying now, if you go to the developer site, Atlassian is now saying that Forge is the recommended way. Forge is limited, but I think, if I remember correctly, there is no official announcement from Atlassian that they are going to discontinue or shut down Connect anytime soon. They might, I'm not really sure, but Forge is definitely the recommended option. Forge is limited, but it works nice. I have developed one app using Forge, and I also published it. It is nice. You can do it very quickly. Maybe within a day or two, you can actually build your own app. Good thing about Forge is that it is you write your code and you don't have to worry about the infrastructure. Atlassian will provide you the infrastructure. So you just publish it. And the next option is, of course, automation. Automation works on both cloud and data center. Today, I will talk about few use cases, simple use cases, where we will look at how we can use automation rules. If you're on cloud, you have automation rules. If you're on server or data center, then you have to install an app. But if you're using Jira 9, then you will get automation natively with data center. And the last option is, of course, script, because you can write scripts and you can build something. All right, so if you want to start with, let us say, Jira REST API, what you can do, you can go to the link. So just do a Google search, Jira Cloud REST API, because you need to know about those endpoints, like what all you can do with Jira. Things like how to create an issue, how to fetch the list of all the issues, how to perform search, how to create a project. So there are a lot of things that you can do with REST API. And if you go to this link for both cloud and data center, you can find out those endpoints. What I normally do, because I have to work with my clients and I have to build solutions for them, I normally keep these common endpoints handy. And when I say handy, I have like a working example. For example, if you want me to right now fetch the list of all the projects for a particular Jira instance programmatically, I can. So I keep these endpoints handy, and I normally use either Postman, or if you're using Chrome, you can also use this extension called Talent API. It's like a plugin. It's like Postman, where you just authenticate, provide your token, your URL, and if you're fetching something, just the URL, the endpoint, the resource. But the thing that I use the most is nothing but shell scripts. So when I start working with a client, I normally have like a combination of my shell scripts which I run, and I simply fetch all the information, because I do sometimes audits, health checks. For example, if you tell me, okay, Ravi, can you please look at my Jira instance and help me if you are good, if you're not good, what things we can improve. I mean, there are a few things that are really obvious. If you have, let us say, 1,000 custom fields, it's not a good sign. But I don't really go to Jira instance and do it manually. I just do it from my terminal. So I will give you a couple of examples today where I simply use curl command. So when I say shell script, I use a script because I can pass some arguments, or I can basically add some business logic. But essentially, it is nothing but a curl call. And there is also one utility called JQ. I'm not really sure if you're familiar with JQ. JQ is a terminal-based utility. So if you run a curl command and if you get a JSON back, it is a bit difficult to pass the JSON if you're not really using, let us say, Python or Java. But JQ is a JSON parser. So let us say you get the JSON back and you want to retrieve a specific field, you can easily. And by the way, I have a lot of videos. I think I didn't mention it. I have a YouTube channel where I talk about Jira. I make videos every day, and I have like hundreds of videos on nothing but REST API. So in case you want to learn how to do things with Jira, you can follow it. Yeah. All right. So talking about Atlassian SDK, if you want to start with Atlassian SDK, in case you want to write your own plugin, you can. And it is not difficult. Of course, you need some programming. I mean, the expectation is that you are a developer or you have some programming experience. Even if you are not an experienced Java developer, good thing is that you have a lot of tutorials. So if you go to this link, basically you just need to go to developer.atlassian.com, and that is it. And then of course you can figure out if you're doing something for server or if you're doing something for cloud, you will get the guides. So there are a lot of guides, there are a lot of tutorials. I followed the guide and I was able to publish my app. So I do have like a server app, data center, and it's not data center, by the way, it's only server. I will update it because I know it's going to be discontinued next year. Next year, is it next year?
Yeah.
Really?
February 2020.
So can you still have server apps on Marketplace?
Publish a new one, you can update.
No, but if you have a server app right now, will it be valid next year, February?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Good. All right, so yeah, so you can always develop your own app. And this is interesting because when I started doing Atlassian Jira consultation, I used to write small plugins because I used to work with clients where they used to ask me, Ravi, this is great, the workflow is nice, but I want to make sure that whenever people are transitioning the issue, they have to upload an attachment, and the attachment should have this file name, or there should be something that should be checked. A field should be required, something like that. And you can always write your own workflow validator, or you can always write your own workflow condition or whatever you want, like a post function. So I used to write like a very small plugin, but the problem with plugin is that you have to maintain it. And because it's in Java, of course you can write a plugin because you know how to do it. But if you give it to someone else, like your client, they are now dependent on you. So that is a problem. And because Jira needs to be updated, right now we're talking about Jira 9.3, I don't know, 9.4, I guess. I think we have 9.4. With a new version of Jira, there might be some Java API changes and it might not work. But one good thing is that if you try the tutorials, and if you also try to use, because you might not have a lot of experience writing in Java. I'm not a Java developer, but I can do things. I recommend you to start with IntelliJ. IntelliJ will make things very easy for you. So the moment you set up your Atlassian development setup, and if you have IntelliJ, it will make things very easy for you. So it will help you with all the autocomplete things, and you can write your code quickly. And good thing Atlassian has done is that they have this Java docs. So in case you want to know what all possibilities you have, you can refer to the Java docs. Or if you have IntelliJ, IntelliJ will also help you. Similarly for Connect. So Connect is, of course, for cloud. And the recommendation from Atlassian is that they're going to, they want to promote Forge. I tried Forge. Forge can do a lot of things. It is good. As I mentioned, I also have a published app on the marketplace. My plan is to sell it and earn a lot of money. But Connect is still there. Connect is still being used. And I know a lot of vendors are now trying to migrate their apps. I know it's not easy and it will take some time, but Connect is still the option. I'm not really sure if you still recommend, for example, if I'm a new vendor or developer, should I try with Forge or Connect? Okay.
I'm not that familiar with Marketplace, but definitely the way to go.
Okay.
Ravi, what apps have you got on there?
So I have two apps. So I have one app called Stay on Top, and Jaswinder helped me build that app. So that app is basically displaying, it's a small app, it's like a utility, it's basically displaying some information. For example, if you open a story or an issue, and you want to know about for how long this story or this issue has been open. So basically the app will display a panel on your issue. So this is something that I'm working on. I'm still actively trying to improve it. And I don't really have time or I'm lazy, but this is one app which I built for both server and also for cloud. For cloud, of course, I use Forge. And Forge is definitely convenient because it is nothing but those REST calls. And if you're doing something with Forge, you can do it using Node.js. I don't really know Node.js, but it is not difficult. If you're using something in Node.js, just use code, Visual Studio Code. It will keep things simple and easy for you. And again, if you want to start with Forge, there are a lot of examples, tutorials, and you can literally develop an app within hours. It's that simple. You just need to know, the only thing that you need to know is what endpoints you have. For example, you may want to play with, let us say, your Scrum board, and you want to maybe you want to add a button somewhere, or maybe you want to display a panel somewhere. You can do that very easily. So they have this UI kit, which is not great, but it works. So you can do something very quickly. For example, if you're trying to solve a problem and you want to maybe improve something, Forge will let you do it very easily. And you just have to write the code, and Atlassian will take care of the environment. It will give you a development environment. It will also give you, I think, a staging environment. And once you're happy, and if you want, you can also publish it. So I was literally able to do this Forge app. Of course, the approval might take some time, because Atlassian will probably take maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But the process itself is not at all difficult. So Forge is, of course, one option. But today, of course, I want to focus a bit more on the automation. So automation rule. And of course, I'm trying to cover these options because based on your experience, based on your role, you may want to develop an app. Yes, you can. You may want to use script runner. Yes, you can. But when it comes to automation tools, it is for everyone. So as long as you have the rights to use automation tools, you can use it. And automation tools, as I mentioned earlier, you can do it on cloud. You can do it on data center. If you want to get started with automation tools, you can, because it's very simple. It's all UI based. For example, you may want to write a rule to send a message to Slack. So all you need to do, you basically need to define what would be the trigger when you want to send the message. So the trigger could be that whenever there is a high priority ticket raised by the customer, and maybe that customer is your maybe your important customer. So you can define the trigger with these conditions in place, and then you can decide what you want to do, the action. So this can be done very easily if you follow the UI. But if you're trying to learn, if you're probably not familiar with Jira, you can always go to this link, which is automation library. And it's a good thing that Atlassian has done. So if you go to this link, you will get a lot of examples. And that page or this library has like a lot of common things, common problems that people are trying to solve with Jira. One thing that I will say with automation rule is, if you're on a standard or free plan, and by the way, you can also have Jira for free for three users, I guess, or 10 users, I guess. You can still use automation, but you need to monitor your execution limit, because I believe the execution limit on standard and free plan is 100 executions per application per month. So if you're, let us say, using Jira software, Jira service management, and Jira work management, then you will get 300 executions per month on the standard and free plan, if I'm not wrong. But good thing is that if you're using this automation, which is project specific, for example, you just want to do something within your project, then there is no limit. If you're doing something which is across multiple projects, maybe you want to have this automation rule, which will probably sync your Jira service management tickets with your Jira software-based issues or dev activities, then it will count towards your execution limit. But if you go to the automation UI, you have the option to monitor your limit. And by the way, I do have also a free course in case you want to. I'm doing this self-promotion. So I have, I think, a lot of videos on automation rules. As I mentioned earlier, you don't really need any programming experience. All you need to know is, I think you should have a good understanding of Jira, like what features are there in the tool. But if you want to get the most out of automation rules, if you know REST API, and if you know smart values. So using smart values, you can actually fetch a lot of things, because it will, for example, let us say you're working with an issue and you want to fetch the field value and then you want to do some further manipulation. Maybe you want to automatically set the due date based on the issue creation date and the priority. Or maybe you want to use some kind of priority metrics and you want to do some calculations. So if you know smart values, you can do it easily. And good thing about automation is that you can also make REST calls because it will let you call maybe another system, or maybe you can make a REST call within Jira. I will talk about one example today where you can create a project using automation, which is not possible like using the features because there is no action to create a project. But because you can make a REST call, then you have endless possibilities. You can do whatever you want because you have REST API. Now, of course, we have Scriptner for Jira, which is one of my I love working on Scriptner. I have been using it for many years. I used to work for Adaptavist. I have a lot of experience. Good thing about Scriptner is that it is available for both cloud and data center. The problem is, although it is there on cloud, although you can write your own script, because when you can write your own script, you can solve bigger problems. You can have a bit more complicated logic. But on cloud, you're limited by REST API. So that is a big limitation, but it is still better than, not really better, but if you're using automation tools, it is no code. You can definitely define your logic, but there is a limit of what you can do because it's all UI based. You can have like maybe 10 components, do this, do that, but beyond like 10 components, it's a bit difficult to manage. But when you're writing your own script, you can simply have one switch case and it's much more easier, neater, and you can do calculations, you can do a lot of wonderful things, but you are limited by REST API. You can't really do things beyond what REST API has to offer on cloud. But if you're on server or data center, then you can do whatever you want. I used to write a lot of small plugins, and when I discovered Scriptner, I stopped writing those plugins because I can just write 2 lines of Groovy code, and it will do the magic. If you want to learn Scriptner for Jira, of course, you need to, the expectation. I do a lot of Scriptner for Jira training for my clients, and you may not have experience writing in Java, but if you have some experience of programming, then it will be easier. Because I do train people who are Jira admins, and they're not programmers, so it can be a bit difficult. So if you know programming, you can easily pick up Scriptner. And if you know REST API, great. But if you're using Scriptner for Jira, eventually you will start using the Java APIs. So if you know these things, you can do a lot of wonderful things. Adaptavist, the company behind Scriptner, they have this library where you can find a lot of examples of scripts for both server and data center. So in case you want to start using Scriptner for both cloud and data center, you can go to their link, their library, and you can pick up those examples. And to be honest, because Scriptner has been there for a while, 15-ish years, just search on Google. You'll find plenty of examples on different sites, also on the community. And sometimes these days I'm working for a client and I'm working with Insight, the asset management. And it's a bit difficult to use Insight APIs. So I have to basically import the classes, and it works, but you might not find a lot of information online. You might not find a lot of working examples, and that is where knowledge of Java APIs come into picture, because you can always, if you can't find something, you can always look at the Java docs and you can figure out if you know what you're doing. And I also have like a lot of videos on both Scriptner for Jira Cloud and Server in case you want to learn it. So of course we have seen these options, but at the same time, before you start automating something, you need to ask yourself or ask the customer why you want to automate, because you don't really want to automate each and everything. Don't expect Jira to do all the work for you. let me give you one example. I was working for a client, and I was actually working for a client where they wanted me to work with Scrum Masters. Now, the expectation of the Scrum Master was one specific person. He wanted me to start the sprints automatically. So, of course, you have the option to use Jira where you can create sprints, but he wanted me to automatically start the sprint on Monday and automatically end the sprint on Friday next week. And it can be done. You can do it, but it's asking too much. I mean, you can automate a lot of things in Jira because Jira will let you do it, but sometimes you have to challenge your customers or maybe challenge your internal stakeholders. Of course, you can do a lot of automation, but there has to be a limit. You can't really expect Jira to do each and everything for you. But if you know what you're doing, if you have decided to automate things, then you need to figure out who will do it. Usually, it is the Jira administrators if they have the skills. And I talked about all these options. So depending upon what option you pick, you need to figure out whether you need someone with developer experience, or maybe you need someone who can just learn automation in a couple of days and do it using the no-code solution. You can, of course, have someone internal. You can also have someone external. And at the same time, if you're thinking of doing something internally, then you have to figure out whether you have resources or capacity or not. And don't try to do something which you can't maintain. For example, you may be able to write a small Java plugin, but it's probably not really recommended. Maybe if you're going to cloud in the near future, then again, you won't be able to support it, because if you're going to cloud, then most of the apps won't work straight away. Even the script in our scripts will not work at all, because the scripts that you write using Java APIs on Jira Data Center will not work at all, because on cloud, you have to use REST API. So you will have to modify, and the path to migration would be painful. So if you're trying to do automation, and if you have plans to move to cloud, then the best option is to use automation, because automation will work on cloud as well. All right, so let me talk about some use cases, and hopefully it will give you some ideas, and maybe you can also share what automations you did in the past. Now, I talked about, if you remember, I talked about REST API, and this simple script will create an issue for you automatically. And of course, the way you invoke this script is up to you. But what I'm doing here is I'm basically making this curl call, and this call is, of course, you have to pass some arguments, you have to pass some parameters. Basically, you need to authenticate, you need to make sure that you're using the right endpoint. And I prefer to use my script. It could be a shell script, it could be a Python script, it could be a script in Java. But what I'm doing here is I'm basically making sure that if I have to connect Jira with another tool, I pass these things. And this can be used for a variety of things. Maybe you want to sync Jira with not script, but maybe you want to sync Jira with ServiceNow. Maybe you want to send a message somewhere, or maybe you want to create an issue in Jira based on, let us say, your Slack message, right? Or maybe you want to do it from your website. So you have a lot of options, because you can do it very easily using REST API. Similarly, if you want to, let us say, because I do a lot of audits where I have to simply fetch the information, get me all the workflows, get me all the custom fields, get me all the screens, get me all the configurations. So I simply use a script like this, where I use, of course, curl along with JQ. So JQ is this utility that I was talking about. So JQ is nothing but a JSON parser, and it will basically dump everything in a CSV file. So I have plenty of these small scripts which I use to dump in CSV, and then, of course, I can do some analysis. This is, of course, using script, not script, but using nothing but REST API. Now, if we talk about automation rules, no code approach, one good example could be that you may want to assign the issues automatically to someone. Imagine that you're working for maybe you have this Jira service management project, ITSM-based approach, where you have a team of, let us say, agents, and you want to assign the issues to them. Or it could be your Jira software project. What you can do with automation, you can assign the issues. So because there is an action called assign the issues to someone. And good thing about automation is that you have some options to select from. So there is something called as balanced workload or round robin or random. So if you want to assign issues to someone in your team, you can use the strategy, whatever works for you. And if you see here in this rule, I have this option called user in a role. So maybe you have a role called, let us say, developers, or a role based on your skill. So automation will pick users from this role, or you can specify your own user picker field or a group picker field, and you can also restrict this based on priority. So this is, of course, a simple example, but it can be done. And good thing is that you can do it using nothing but your no-code automation approach. You don't have to write any script. You don't have to worry about the logic. And similarly, this is something you need to be administrator. Yeah, and you have to, of course, work with your admin, and you have to figure out because if you make everyone your Jira administrator, then it can be a problem. But yeah. So in case you have similar needs, just look at automation rules. This example I picked up from the Atlassian automation library, and this is really good because I used to do it, and I still do it using my own script. You know the example that I was talking about. Every day you might have to send an email to someone with nothing but some information from Jira. How many issues I resolved today? How many issues were of high priority, and so on. So what you can do using automation, you can simply write this. It's not a code. It is a code, but basically what we are using here is we are using smart values. So if you want to get the most out of automation rules, you can use something like issues.size. It will give you the number of issues. Or if you just want to fetch the issues, and if you want to iterate over those issues, and you want to create a table, you can. And because it is nothing but your own table, you can do some calculations here as well. And this works really well. Of course, there is some coding involved. You need to know a little bit of HTML, a bit of smart values. But good thing is that there is a lot of documentation. I mean, if you search Jira Cloud automation smart values, you will find a lot of these examples online. And this is actually from the library. Yeah.
Stories.
Yep.
Back channel.
Mm-hmm.
So, stories are in
Yep.
review, on the QA. It also, you would have done the same.
Maybe they have nothing but the issue subscription, filter subscription. So what you can do in Jira is natively, you can write a JQL for those issues, how many issues are in this status, and you can save it as a filter. So filter is basically nothing but a saved query. So JQL is basically this part where it says the status is equal to backlog. So this is JQL, but this whole thing is nothing but automation. And maybe they're using it because if you're doing this thing here, your own code, you can basically customize it. You can do some calculations. But if you're using the filter subscription, you will just get a table. That is it.
So even this
No.
Any user can.
Anyone can write their own JQL, and they can create a filter. They can subscribe to it, and they can get notified. So this can be done natively, but the native functionality is limited. But you can actually add your logic here. Now the same thing I do using Scriptner, because when you have Scriptner, you can write a script and you can have more logic. Not only I want a list of issues, but I want to know maybe
How many days or something.
Yeah, that is also one thing. But I was working for a client where they wanted to also fetch the linked issues, which you can't do. So if you want to display a table, for example, let us say you have an epic and you want to know how many stories are delivered or what is the status, it's a bit difficult because you're basically now going from one issue to another issue. And in that case, you need a script. And maybe you want to do some calculations, maybe you want to do some further parsing. For example, I was working for a client where Jenkins, the build tool, was adding a comment on the story, like what was the status of the build. Now that was a comment, but what if you want to what if you want to pick up that comment, like the status of the build, and display it in your email? It's a bit tricky, right? But if you have your own script, you can always go to the issue and then fetch the last comment, and then also fetch the body of the comment and look for a string, which is of course impossible using automation tools. But if you have your own script, you can. And because I did this because not because I can, because I wanted to save 1 hour of that person every day because they were doing it manually, and it's a pain. And you can of course write a script to. Eventually, I'm just doing a table, right? A simple table with some stats, but it's automatic every day, 5 o'clock, and the person is happy because they're just looking at the email. All right, I want to talk about a couple of examples using, because of course we are talking about automation and we have ITSM coming up, ITSM event. So I want to talk about some ITSM, Jira service management based automation rules. One very good example is onboarding activities. Whenever you have a new hire in the organization, you may want to do things automatically. And you can do it very easily using automation rules because what you can do, you can actually create a subtask or maybe a linked task. Things like a simple task like create access card or order a laptop or add user to the AD or maybe add that person to some system. So these are nothing but simple subtasks, but these individual activities could be further automated. One good example could be that, let us say you want to add the user to the AD. Of course, someone can probably go to Azure and do it manually. Okay, we have a new user joining next month. We want to add them. But you can also do this automatically. Imagine that you have a button, approve. The moment you click the button approve, we can have this automation rule, which will make a REST call to Azure AD. It will create the user, and the JSON that you will get back will be added as a comment or some portion of the JSON that, okay, this user account has been added. And maybe we can display a link and we can send the link to the user to create a password. So it can be done. And it will save time. And of course, when you're doing it using a tool, you have a trace that, yes, we did add this user to AD and we did these activities. So onboarding is a very good example. And this is something that I talked about. Now, using automation tools, as of today, we don't really have any option to create a project automatically. But what I did, and anyone can do, is you can also always make a REST call. So you can always use Jira's intern. So I'm making a REST call within Jira to the same Jira instance, but it can be any Jira instance or it can be any other tool. All you need to do, you just need to make sure that there is authentication. Now we have the option to hide this token. It was not there earlier for some reason, but now we can hide it, which is great. And I really appreciate this. So whenever you make a REST call, you will get, of course, some JSON back and you can process it. And what you can do is you can actually pass in your, because when you're posting something using REST API, you have to tell Jira that, okay, I need this project with this key, with this name, with this template, and we can actually automate this. So we are in a way provisioning creation of a project, and it will save a lot of time. Imagine you raise a ticket on your portal, you click a button, and within 2 minutes you will get an email from Jira. This is your new project, all automated. And yeah,
what's the use? Have you come across a use case for using that to actually create projects on the fly?
I did this yesterday.
But why? For what purpose?
To save time. So because you want one. Imagine that you are responsible for creating a project in Jira. So people will raise a ticket for you. Can you please add? Can I have a new project in Jira where I want to have these workflows, these issue types? So what you can do, you can publish these templates. So if you want to do software development, use a template called Simple Software Project Management. And if you want to know more about these templates, click this link and you will be taken to conference page where you can first figure out, okay, if I select my software template number 1, I'll get these 4 issue types, these workflows, and these configurations, which are defined by my organization. So I'm not really doing it manually. I'm just raising a ticket based on what I want, and the person who has to create the project is not really doing anything. They're just there for escalations, but the tool will create the project for them. Or maybe you can do it with some intervention, like approve, then do it. But you're not really going to Jira and clicking on the button to create a project and selecting the right scheme and the right set of configurations. Another example could be that in Jira, we have this concept of organization. So maybe you want to, I'm not really sure if you're using organization or not, but organization is basically a way to group your customers. Like maybe you have 5 customers from Google, 15 customers from Microsoft. And maybe you want that whenever I receive a ticket from someone from Microsoft, I want the same ticket to be shared with everyone in Microsoft. So you can do that. Basically, you can update the organization field automatically, which automation rule can do. Again, a simple example, and you don't have to worry too much about it because there is an action for it. You just need to update the field. And this is where this example is good because maybe you want to give, let us say you receive a ticket from customer and you want your customer to reply back to you with some more information, but you need this information in 2 days or 5 days. And if not, you'll close the ticket. So you can do that. You can actually add a comment like this where you can use smart values. And again, it involves some knowledge of smart values. And you can do some calculations like, okay, I need this information by Friday, but it has to be in the next 5 days or 2 days. So you can do some simple calculations here. Again, a simple example, but it is a bit more, you need some information about, you need some knowledge of how to work with smart values. And you can also do some calculations here if in case you want.
Patterns for dash or handlebars or that type of, it fix the 2 curly brackets on each side.
Yeah. Exactly. 2 curly brackets and then the smart value. And you also have some like not really methods, but some functions.
Okay.
For example, what I'm doing here is now dot plus business days 5. So basically what I'm doing is the moment I click on the button that I need this information, Jira will send a message that I need this information by
5 days.
Exactly. Maybe it's your process that you want to give your customer 5 days. And you have some similar functions if you go to their documentation, but you have to follow up at like this double curly braces. And you can also, if you're using automation rules, you have the option to also use variables, because if you can always save a variable and use that variable later on. You just need to declare it somewhere on top. If you don't declare it, it won't really work. Just declare it. I mean, create a variable, assign the variable some null value, and then use it. If you don't declare it on top, it won't work. But it is there for you. Not many people are using variables, so you can actually, in a way, enhance the logic. Yeah. So few of the things that I want to talk about very quickly. In case you don't really want to use automation rules, this is based on my experience. One of my clients wanted to integrate Jira with another tool, but they were not really interested in doing live integration. They wanted Jira to just dump something in a database. So you can do that. You can always use maybe a REST API based approach, maybe write your own Python scripts, or maybe along with Python scripts, use webhooks, because in Jira you can configure a webhook that whenever something happens, call this URL. So you can do that. And you can also do it from outside. So when you create this automation rule, in case you want to do something from outside to Jira, you can actually use a webhook that you can invoke. And in this particular example, what I was doing for a client, they wanted me to dump something in their database. And before I was dumping something in the database, I was doing some processing. And I used my own scripts. because Jira will let you use REST API. Also, one good thing about Jira is that I'm not really sure if you have seen this or not. If you want, you can also retrieve the JSON of multiple issues easily. If you go to the issue navigator, if you perform or if you're using, let us say, the REST API, and if you pass your, let us say, JQL, you will get, of course, a JSON back. But this JSON is something that you can also retrieve using the issue navigator. So you can also use JSON, which is handy because you don't really have to worry about the formatting. And you can always dump something in a CSV. I do this a lot because if nothing works, use CSV because it's nothing but a simple text file. Anyone can read it. Anyone can pass it easily. Yeah, so these are the options that I wanted to talk about today. And I also wanted to cover some use cases. Let me know if you have any questions. And yeah, that is it. Yep. Oh, good.
I'm really interested in the Jira integration with the service then.
Yeah, I was doing this for a gaming client because ServiceNow is heavily used and you can't really replace it because it's very tightly integrated with Microsoft and it works really well. But people still are trying to use Jira. They migrate because when it comes to Jira Service Desk and ServiceNow, if you compare the cost, ServiceNow is expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is. Yeah.
Service management. In some ways comparable.
Yeah.
So I would, if I was service now, I'd be.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
how did you use any kind of any other tools? Or was it
Script now. Yeah.
So why that versus something like Excelate?
I have used Excelate. It's fine. It works nice. But not really cost. I think it depends. So it's a good question. So if let's say if I'm a consultant and I have this Jira instance, and now I have to decide which option works best for me. If they already have Excelate, I'll use Excelate. If not, if they have, let us say, Scriptner, I'll use Scriptner. But Excelate will make things very easy for you.
The friction.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And in most cases, the automation is usually very simple. For example, okay, we have service now. I want to create the same ticket in Jira. That is it. And then Jira will take care of everything. Yeah, you can. I mean, from ServiceNow to create a ticket in Jira, you need to do it from ServiceNow. But if you're doing it from Jira to ServiceNow, then of course you can make it from ServiceNow. I think they have this platform where you can write scripts, which yeah, and it's inbuilt. I think you have to pay for it, right? Yeah. Okay.
But you can build apps for free in your.
Okay. Yeah.
really interesting? That's important. You realise that service now is commercial part you just said.
Yeah.
So we are talking to customers about coexist, where your DevOps team, service manager, site into service now, doing this integration we're talking about between the two. Something that we are
Exactly.
So I'm really curious about. Well, the way that I approach this from a pre-sales point of view is we talked about Excelate, and Excelate is on the table. So you mentioned Excelate, and it's great. The guys at Excelate do a cracking job. It is a low-code, no-code API that kind of does that. It's a commercial value. So when we position Jira Service Manager, you're not just looking at the service manager, looking at another third-party tool that has marketplace. It does what it says on the tin. It is quite good. It's just from a commercial point of view.
Do you know about this get int IO. This company, I know the owner. I did a video with them. What they have done, they have a platform where it's again not an app. It is a platform which I was talking about, I think, last week. They have this platform where you can connect Jira, you do your authentication, I think OAuth, or maybe using token or password, I guess, and then you can configure on their platform. It's a bit like Accelerate, but it's separate. It's not within Jira, and it works nice. I mean, it's good, and they have this integration not between Jira and ServiceNow, but between Jira and Azure DevOps, Asana, Monday.com, GitLab. So they have this platform. It's nothing within Jira. Just I think this app is not really an app. I think it's probably I'm not really sure if they have an app or not now, but till last year it was nothing but a link to their online platform. I mean,
thought that was dangerous. Yeah. Came up there, started
the fast.
searching for it. Thought we did not have
Adaptivist.
Autoblocks. I did a lot of things with them. Autoblocks. Andre? All Saunders left.
Has he?
Yeah.
Where's he now?
Some aviation industry.
That's probably why he's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I haven't spoken to him for a year or so, so I'm out of date. Yeah. They were exploring. They were looking at it as a commercial.
Yeah.
When we talked to them about it, they said, "Look, if you've got a customer who's interested in this, and let's see if that's in there, and then we."
I tried it. I tried Autoblocks. They had two versions. Version 1 was no code. It was like Blockly, you know Blockly, Google Blockly, where you just connect things. But version 2 was it was code based, where you have the option to connect using blocks, but eventually you have to write your own scripts using TypeScript. So that is fine, but it was not really for normal users. It was basically for developers. So I'm not really sure what they're doing with Autoblocks, but yeah, I did few things with Autoblocks in the past. It was good. Yeah.
Yeah, ServiceNow would be on the exact opposite side sometimes, right? For ServiceNow, you can write, they have some low code options there. Even to the point that we stand up listening endpoint instance that listens specifically and process our requests. That is something that you can handle the request. But you're full coder at that. Might as well be writing the REST endpoint.
Yeah.
The advantages because service over here it's hard.
This is what we're up against. We're kind of like sales. When some of the customers I've spoken to said, "Look, we like this now a lot, but it's very expensive." Functionality in there that we. Yeah, this is the thing. Plus, if we need an upgrade, we need to get a consultant in there.
Actually, if you grab the price, we require a consultant. Level of
ServiceNow is a competitor for Jira.
serious service manager. Not for
What is the other competitor?
Monday.com, Asana,
Zendesk on the
then yeah. Excel sheet is the biggest competitor. Excel, everyone uses Excel, and they love Excel sheets.
Service management.
Yep. So
Jira that happened through and you've got Jira Line, which is an acquisition of Agile Craft. That's quite niche in a way. Most people know Jira line's geared at more kind of C-level. Jira software and Jira management point. Like Jira software advanced roadmaps with
guys kept on talking on-prem or cloud.
Yep.
Like, how do you decide whether you should on-prem or a cloud solution or?
Go for cloud. If you're not, if you're not concerned about, let us say if you're a bank, and you're really concerned about your data, then.
So Atlassian's a cloud-first company, so it's all very cloud. But Atlassian recognise the fact that people, for various reasons, like data residency, security challenges, know where your data is exactly. Questions that we're having is really what I offer on-prem. Why would you not go to cloud? Some people, it's not a question of why; it's more a question of when. Depends on how their business model is towards that. Anyway. That's what we're working to. The conversation is, and you've probably heard it, is server, two instances of server, software, and service desk, which is Confluence, and you've got data center.
Confluence is part of Jira.
It's not a part of. It's not.
It's part of that, but it's not part of that.
Oh, Atlassian, okay.
Trello is part of it. That's it.
Atlassian.
Yeah,
Didn't use it, they absorbed that one.
we're doing more work on Trello now. We're going to
It becomes like
start becoming more enterprise now.
They become like a Salesforce. They are acquiring everyone.
Yeah. Well, this is what we've done with Jira Service Management. Is a lot of the functionality that Ravi's been talking about today has come through acquisition.
Yeah.
So before, what used to happen is you used to bolster your features of your product using add-ons. Right. But the problem is one, it's a commercial thing. So you pay for Jira software, which is great. Then you have to pay Kaching EasyBI, Kaching automation, Kaching insight as an add-on, Kaching Ops Genie. And then you've got all this stuff that is added on, and before you know where you are, you're like comparable, say the likes of ServiceNow. We've incorporated a lot of the functionality into products so that you don't need to have these add-ons. The integration is
It's an easy solution. Just go and buy a bunch of companies that make the add-ons, and there you go. In the same way with Insight.
yeah.
Okay, I'm going to do a bit for the recording, which is just a thank Ravi.
I have one last question for Ravi. The REST API, is that close enough between cloud and server that I can just pretend I'm writing REST API for Jira and then make the same call?
It used to be. You're talking about the endpoints, right?
Yeah, what the calls I make the endpoints.
Yeah, it used to be similar, if not same. Now there are differences.
Okay.
There are a lot of things that you can do on Onion Cloud, and that is of course my complaint.
Yeah.
Even with even if you talk about REST API, there's no new endpoint on data center. But cloud, yeah.
Ours kind of varies all over, so more of just learning.
So we are, all the challenge we had is like, look, I've got a server instance here, I've got a data center here, and I've got cloud here. How can I together? Like, there are some tools that do that. I didn't add on. They're a bit clunky, but you need to kind of know where it all is. We are doing tunneling more behind the firewall connectivity. Came out, I think, earlier this year.
Okay.
I don't know enough about it to give you confidence about exactly how it works, but it's there in terms of information. It allows us to do what we call hybrid approaches. So you've got on-prem and cloud.
That's interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
That's the one I had. Yeah, and largely just when you're developing, it's nice to know if someone asks, you're like, yeah, it's good for A, B, just A, just B. Try it.
I have two folders: Jira Cloud REST API, Jira Server REST API.
Okay, so they are different.
They are different, yeah. Most of my customers are they are on data center.
Or bribe.
Yeah, bribe will work. Yeah. I mean, now so next year I'm trying to focus a bit more on Forge, because with the work I do as a company, we do 90% services, but I also want to just launch an app and earn a lot of money.
Let's
And
talk.
yeah.
Let's talk. That's
Yeah.
our gig.
Yeah.
We can work there.
So that is my, of course, it's not really simple because you have to spend months developing an app and then expect it to sell.
Which
And
it
you
never does without the other work. that goes
Hopefully when I come here for the next talk, I'll probably talk about my app. Please go and buy,
I was like and subscribe.
like and subscribe.
On service desk.
You have your migration tool, right?
We have a JSW now. Challenges is asset insight and how do you manage.
It's painful. I mean, even the doc, if you go to your own documentation link, it's broken.
True, sadly true.
Yeah,
I'm gonna-
because you have a couple of links, not couple of, but a lot of your links, because after the acquisition, Riada, because even the Riada documentation used to be not very straightforward. You know the owners, right? Matthias, Tommy, they are developers, but they are not very good with documentation. So although Insight is great, but you won't find it unless you search in the Java docs and you figure out. I'm not a full-time developer, but it took me a while to figure out, okay, how do I create a new, let us say, attribute?
As you say,
And you have to import using Groovy script. You have to import Riada classes, like add plugin module, and then import the classes. And then you have to do a lot of changes in your pom.xml to make sure that your IntelliJ is able to pick up those changes or dependencies. And then you're probably ready. But it will take you maybe 3 days to figure out what classes to use. But there's no documentation when it comes to Insight. And on cloud, it's a bit, I mean, you don't really have discovery, like real-time discovery yet, I guess. Or do you have? No.
That's a very good question.
Can I suggest we hold that question because there is pizza. in
Okay,
this
all right.
direction. So thank you very much, Ravi. I really appreciate the topic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go and
Thank you.
get some pizza before it gets completely cold.
Go for pizza.
Thank you.